Benvenuti, amici, and welcome to Your Italian Podcast. I'm Paula Hopkins, founder of Your Italian Passport, and this is our first foray into the podcast world. I'm so excited. We're going to talk about all sorts of things here, not just citizenship, but yes, citizenship, of course. That's how most of you know me, as the attorney that helps Italian Americans with Italian citizenship. But we're not going to talk just about citizenship. We're going to talk about food, travel, life as a citizen in Italy, politics, you name it. It's going to be discussed here at Your Italian Podcast. Today, we have a fantastic guest. You'll never guess who. It's my mom. Who else is going to come on your podcast when you don't really have a podcast yet? And I am so excited. We're going to talk about our citizenship process, our family history, all of which is going to sound really familiar to most of you, I'm going to guess, because the Italian experience isn't just an individual one. It's kind of a universal experience. So, hope you enjoy. Let's get to it. Well, Mom, thanks for being my first guest on the Your Italian podcast. This is so exciting.
My
So glad
pleasure.
to have you here. Yeah, it's great.
It's great
I
to
thought
be
I
here.
would have you as guest number one because this really is where this whole thing originates, is with our lineage, leads to our citizenship, led to Your Italian Passport, leads to today Your Italian Podcast. So
Correct.
there was
I
no
was,
one
I was
more.
client number one.
Yes, exactly. Client number one has become podcast uh, guest number one. I don't think
Yes.
anything could be more fitting.
Yes, I agree.
So I thought we would start for everybody just to give a sense of who we are, and that explains everything. Where did this process begin for us? Because I mean, the short answer is I know it begins with your research. You discovered our eligibility for this before
Correct.
I knew about it. Tell us about how you found that out.
I was doing ancestry research and I had no idea about this dual citizenship process even existing. And I kept stumbling upon the term juris sanguinis. Did I
Jure
say?
sanguinis, yes.
Yeah. And, sort of did some research to find out what that meant. And began to realize that I might be able to get an Italian passport and claim Italian citizenship, which had never occurred to me that that was even a thing. I had never heard of it. I never knew anybody who had done it.
Would you say that was back in like 2011, 12 when we started first talking about this?
It's at least 10 years ago.
Okay, right. And I
So,
remember being in my office getting the texts as one gets from their mom when they're at work.
oh,
And much of it is like, Mom, I'm working. And then one came through about, I think we can get Italian dual citizenship. And I
oh,
thought,
really? Oh, that got
well,
your
that's
attention, I'll
actually
bet.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
all right. So, in your ancestry research, what did you discover in terms of our family history that could possibly lead to citizenship?
I was just pursuing ancestry. Like, where did
Right.
these people come from in Italy? And then when I discovered the possibility of citizenship, I realized it would have to come through the paternal side.
Got it. And
Because,
in your preliminary research there, were there any things that you discovered that you thought, wow, I never knew that. I thought I knew I thought I knew these people enough to, names, dates of birth, etc. But anything that you discovered that you thought, well, who knew?
I don't think initially. I mean, I kind of discovered birthplaces, which I hadn't known, and I I discovered that my maternal grandfather had had siblings who I had never known about, but they had died in childhood. But I think I found that out much later.
Right.
Initially, no, I wasn't finding things that I had not known about.
Okay.
I
Well, maybe that's because in your experience, you sort of had a relationship with the people that were Italy born in our line, and so
well,
kind of knew something about them going into the process.
well, I knew we all came from Abruzzo. Both
Hmm.
sides, all four grandparents probably lived within 30 miles of each other in Italy.
Right.
Um,
Which is so common
Very
that
common.
Italians that come to the U.S. tend to settle it, the Abruzzese come to Western Pennsylvania or West Virginia and elsewhere, and those from Naples tend to go to New Jersey, New York, etc. So that's very common.
Correct. So, I knew who they were, though my paternal grandparents had both been deceased by the time I was born. Mm-hmm. My maternal grandparents were alive until I was almost out of high school.
Right. And people that you knew well. You said you had grown up in their house, in his house. We'll get into that in a moment. So,
his house.
These are not people I ever had the privilege of knowing. I mean, you didn't even know your paternal grandparents.
Never.
Your grandfather was alive for a short period of time after your birth.
A matter of months.
Right.
There is one.
Let alone people that I didn't have the chance to meet.
No,
go ahead.
You didn't know them. I was an infant when he passed, and my grandmother had died a few years before that.
Right, and like so many people, you are Italian on both sides.
Yes.
Anybody that knows me through Italian citizenship work knows that I am not Italian, and our names are probably showing on the screen as last name Hopkins, and they've always asked me, well, are you Italian? And I say, well, yes. On my mother's side, my mother is a Molinari or Molinari.
Molinari.
Yes, exactly. So tell us about our lineage, the four grandparents, one of which is U.S. born.
My maternal grandmother was actually U.S. born, barely. Yes.
First to be born in this country?
Correct.
And she had older siblings that were born in Italy?
Yes. No, I believe she was the oldest.
Oh, okay. So they came together. Maybe they met here. Maybe your great-grandparents, her parents, met here in the U.S. We don't know that part.
I don't know that.
An ancestry project is born.
Yes.
But your maternal grandfather, Leonardo D'Arcangelo, came to the U.S. alone, if I recall, and very young.
Very young. I think 16.
Oh my gosh. Can you even imagine?
No. And once I went there and realized how difficult it would have been just for him to get from his town to the disembarkation point.
Well, this is a question I ask all the time, and I don't know that I've ever gotten an answer that I know is correct. Did they go by mule? Did they go on foot? How did they go to the port cities if you weren't living anywhere near a port city?
I don't know that. By the time I started researching this, my grandfather was gone.
I mean, just the journey to the port is a journey in itself, let alone these people then went 2 weeks in this boat, often in steerage, across an ocean.
Definitely.
Yes, across an ocean, which may have been calm and may not have been so calm.
Right, and he
came only to get to a place they've never been before.
Do
you have any sense of where Leonardo was going when he got to New York?
Yes, he was.
Where was he going?
He had cousins in the suburbs of Pittsburgh that he was. They're named on the manifest where he was.
And am I correct in saying he went into Ellis Island? That was his port of arrival in the U.S.?
He did come through Ellis Island, yes, definitely.
Okay, so he comes into New York and then is on his way to Pittsburgh. Again, I guess there may have been somewhat better train service in the U.S. at that time, a little flatter for sure.
It's not easy to get from New York to Pittsburgh today.
Now.
So I can't even imagine what he was doing then. I mean, other than an airplane, which of course was not available, but I don't know how he got there, but that's where he went. He had cousins there.
And if I'm recalling correctly, Leonardo was an only child.
He had
some siblings didn't survive.
He had, I think, 3 or 4 siblings who died in childhood. But he was his parents' only living child, and he left at 16, and they never saw him again.
Can you even imagine that?
No, I can't.
From anybody's perspective, the sadness of it, the anxiety of it, the excitement of it for a 16-year-old boy, but also the fear of it.
No, it's amazing.
It really is.
The bravery to do it, the courage to do it, to go with no, I mean, when I say no money, I mean no money.
Right. I so often read on the ship's manifest, it often lists how much money is the
It might
passenger
say
traveling with, and you'll
$4.
see
Yeah,
some pittance,
a
$2,
pittance.
something like that, where it's like, oh my gosh, how are you going to get to your final destination on $2?
It's daunting to me.
Right.
But
So that it was an amazing time in both countries.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do remember as a child, because we lived in his house, that he would get packages now and again from his mother. Oftentimes food. Like,
and what do you remember what she would send?
Jesus, she would send things to him. Yes.
Did he have favorite things that you recall receiving at the house?
I don't remember that, but I do remember a few times that packages came.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And that had to take, sending something by mail to Italy today, or receiving something by mail from Italy today, just USPS, if it gets here at all, it takes many weeks. Now, so can you imagine?
Yes.
I don't think she was sending fresh fruit.
No. They were in a slightly bigger town than... Right,
Città Sant'Angelo.
Città Sant'Angelo, yes.
Right, we'll come back to the grandparents that are the source of our citizenship in a moment. But Leonardo, that you grew up with, was from Città Sant'Angelo, which is, for anybody that doesn't know, maybe a 20-minute ride in the car up the hill from Pescara, which is the main city in Abruzzo on the coast.
Correct.
And you and I have been there together, and it is charming beyond belief, that little town.
And I would imagine very little changed from what it was when he lived there, which is another thing that when I went there was just astounding to me. That these little towns where the diaspora originated haven't changed very much.
Right, time stands still.
In 100 years.
And more. And more. Some of that is way older in many of those places than 100 years.
But I mean, since his departure.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And now we'll come back to when he went back there. But so he gets to Pittsburgh and he does what?
He worked as a paper hanger with his cousin.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yes. I thought you were going to say got a job in the mill, which I know is coming, but not the first job.
Not a first job. No.
Did you have to be a certain age to work in the mill?
I doubt it.
9.
Yes, exactly.
Can you see over this conveyor belt, kid?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so he gets a job as a paper hanger with a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And does that for a time.
In Canonsburg, which if you recall, that's like near Washington, Pennsylvania.
Yes, southwest of Pittsburgh, sure.
Right, but somehow he found his way to McKeesport and got a job in the Fort Pitt Works, which was a foundry, and worked there until he retired at 65 with the United Steelworkers pension.
Right. I mean, what a story to have gone from poor in Italy, 16 years old, with who knows what he would have done, if he had stayed there, something, of course, to, working an entire career in the mill and retiring on it.
Right.
As a citizen. So, but slowing down for just a second. So if anybody that doesn't know, this is probably general information. Most people know that Pittsburgh, famous for its steel mills, and McKeesport back in the day, 100 years ago, was one of the epicenters of the steel industry in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
Was arguably more hustle and bustle than downtown Pittsburgh in some respects, when it was really in its full splendor.
Yes, National Tube Works was in McKeesport, and they made all the seamless pipe for the entire country. Right. Yes.
Not only for the country, I'm sure they played a huge role in the war.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so he gets this job in the mill and starts making a little bit of money. Right. Who knows? It's like, just like in Italy, I'm sure it's somebody that he knew.
He knew.
Says, I can get you a job in the mill.
Yeah.
and starts making a little bit of money and buys a house.
Well, he became a citizen first.
Okay.
And I think you had to be there 10 years, and he immediately
Five.
He became a citizen not long after arriving. I think he was here maybe 10 years. And then he bought this house, the last house at the top of the hill on 25th Street.
In Christie Park.
3 blocks from the mill that he worked in. So
did he walk to work?
Work and home. And it was a brand new house. No one had ever lived in it, which is amazing to me. And I lived in it until I was 12 years old.
And how old would you say he was when he bought the house, by your best guess?
I would say not 30.
And this is before your mother and her older sisters were born?
My mother was born in that house.
Born in the house. Okay, so they were living in the house before her birth, but maybe not all of them. I'm not sure.
Rose was not born in that house. I think Lucy and my mother were born in that house.
Okay. And they were, I know that sounds like 3 sisters, but we have found out that they were really one of five, right?
Yes.
2 children were lost
in
to
childhood.
Your grandfather.
Yeah.
At childbirth or shortly thereafter, etc.
Yes.
And so your mother, being the youngest, I guess was maybe a little bit more pampered, gets to stay in that house once she marries and continues living with your mother and father, stay with your grandfather, and that's the house you grew up in.
Yes, until I was 12 years old.
And it was quite the Italian neighborhood, wasn't it?
Totally. Almost 100%.
And what was that experience like?
It was great. We were in and out of each other's houses all the time. It didn't matter if your parents knew what you were doing, because somebody else would reprimand you or scold you or give you a smack. It was like everybody took care of everybody's kids.
It takes a village. The whole village was raising each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And did everybody work in the mill for the most part?
Everybody who was employed worked in the mill. Some of them had already, by the time I became aware of them, been hurt in mill accidents, which was very common. And in those days, that was just too bad, so sad. You don't have a job anymore.
Right.
But
no sort of workman's compensation and living at home with a paycheck for the rest of your life. It was a major change to lifestyle.
Yes. I mean, you got like a little pittance from the union, but they were poor.
And I remember a story I've heard you tell many times. I think her name was Lena in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Lena, who ran the numbers.
Yes.
Yes, Lena with her own lottery system.
Evie and I were number runners. We were 6.
You were one of the number runners.
We had no idea what we were doing.
What exactly were you doing for Lena? What did you understand you were doing?
All we knew was she handed us a little brown lunch bag filled with pieces of paper, which we had to take 3 blocks down and knock on the door and give it to the guy. And she gave us a nickel then to go next door to the candy store and buy candy.
And you were in fact running numbers for her.
We had no idea what we were doing.
For her lottery system there in the neighborhood.
My first job.
Yes. Hey, it paid well in penny candy.
Yeah,
a nickel gets you 5 pieces. That's pretty good. And so
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds almost classic Italian story from that we see in movies of this fun neighborhood, and everybody works in the same place, everybody goes to the same school, everybody lives in each other's houses.
Right. It could have happened in New York.
Right.
So
it was the Italian story. Yeah. This version happens to be in McKeesport, Pennsylvania.
Exactly. And I went to the same elementary school that my mother had gone to.
I don't think I knew that.
I had a few of the same teachers that she had.
Wow.
And it was
pretty ideal, especially for a kid.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. But you moved from there.
We did.
When you were 12.
I was 12.
And what was the reason for the move?
I think my mother had lived there her whole life, and she, they had a little more income, and she wanted a new house, a nicer neighborhood, which she thought were better schools. And we moved to more, not quite middle class, but more affluent than where we were. And it wasn't Italian; it was a lot of Jewish people. And, it was just a whole different set of expected behaviors from children. And I hated it. And, but I adapted. But yeah, it was a big,
Sure.
it was a very big.
Yeah, it was almost like your own immigration.
Yes.
Immigration out of Italy and into America.
You had
of
to
sorts.
learn how to act better.
Yeah, sure. You had to kind of, maybe would we say, assimilate.
Absolutely.
That, up until that point, you had been living in essentially a little Italy where, you knew what was acceptable and what wasn't, and everybody came up with the same set of standards in their house. So,
yeah,
it seemed like, well, this must just be what everybody does.
Right. Exactly. And then I was in a place where you had to call on the phone before you went over to a friend's house. And I was like,
right.
What?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Why such formality?
Yes.
Just go over. I know she's there.
Yeah, you go over and you scream her name outside the front door until she comes out to play. So yeah, it was
right.
a little different. But yeah, but that was when I was 12. So that sort of Italian immersion ended for me at 12 years old.
And your grandfather, Leonardo, he stayed back in the old neighborhood.
He did. He sold that house and he came with us for a while, but he hated it. And then he went back to the old neighborhood and rented an apartment, and he lived there until he died. I think.
And you were close with him.
One of the biggest regrets of his life.
Sorry, what was the biggest regret?
I think selling his house was one of the biggest regrets of his life.
And you were quite close with him.
Yeah, well, I lived with him. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, now we've been talking about the side of our family that is not the source of our citizenship.
Correct.
And I think it should be said for anybody listening that, because I say this so often in helping people with citizenship, that Leonardo is the perfect example of someone that came to the U.S. and survived to the point of thriving, that he got a great job. He bought a home. He started a family, and of course spoke English and became a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
And did so as quickly as he could, because he realized this is in my best interest.
Right. And I think
he
did it pretty quickly. And he had 3 daughters, all of whom graduated from high school. Lucy went on to get a nursing degree. He never drove a car, but he never learned to drive, but he could walk to work. So
right.
That's what he.
Why do you need a car when you can walk to work?
Yeah, that's what he did.
And when everybody lives within the neighborhood.
And I remember being told that he never lost his job through the Depression. So vagrants would come to the house for food, and my grandmother would feed them, and they would mark the house that this was a place where you could come. Yes. So,
we keep talking about and there's a reason for this, but we keep talking about your grandfather as if your grandmother isn't there.
She's not.
She isn't there.
Well,
and what's that about?
Imagine 70 some years ago, a Catholic Italian couple, they were divorced.
Unheard of.
She lived 2 houses down with my Aunt Rose.
Wow.
The
oldest of my grandmother's oldest sister, Rose.
Yes. She lived 2 houses. They split up. He moved 2 doors down the street. So
A big separation.
Big split up.
Why in the world did that end?
Do you know
that
I didn't know
marriage?
that? That was
Huh.
never discussed.
Well, that's also very common in Italian
Yes, it
families.
was
Sometimes there are just things we don't talk about.
omerta. You just
Yes.
don't talk about it.
Yeah, and that was one.
And no, I to this day don't know. No.
But you remained close with her even though she wasn't in the
Yes, she
house. She was.
eventually moved to her own. She remarried and moved to another house when I was, maybe school age.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we remained very close with her.
But to go back on a point, so he comes to the U.S. at 16. He gets a job in the mill. He gets his ducks in a row, etc. It comes to me as no surprise now, having worked in this industry for nearly 15 years, that sure, yes, he's not a source of citizenship for you and me, of Italian citizenship. He became an American citizen well before your mother was born.
Totally.
Yeah. But then switching gears to the other side, your father's side.
A very different story.
Right, like night and day. And what I always say to people, we'll talk about them, but what I always say to folks exploring citizenship is your Italian citizenship is most often linked to someone who was not necessarily thriving in the US.
Correct.
Surviving, but not necessarily thriving, right. And therefore not able to get it together to achieve US citizenship. Go ahead, Mom.
Absolutely the case. Absolutely the case.
And on your father's side, this describes his parents and your father's upbringing.
Completely.
Yeah. They weren't in McKeesport. Go ahead.
They were desperately poor. He was the youngest of 9 children.
My grandfather, your father.
The youngest of 9 children. His father was never more than marginally employed. His mother had 9 children, 3 of whom were born after she had a prosthetic leg from diabetes, if you can imagine.
Right.
And they were desperately poor. They never owned their home. They rented. I mean, it was not good.
Right. I remember Papap saying that's what I called my grandfather, that for heat, they didn't have heat in the house. And in the winter, they would put bricks in the fireplace and then wrap them in blankets and take the wrapped brick to bed with them at night.
His mother made bread every day. Every day. Oh my gosh. And
that's becoming, fashionable again.
Well, it's one thing.
Not out of necessity, but out of I don't have anything else to do.
But he was the youngest of 9 children. He's the only one who graduated high school because all the rest of them had to go to work to survive.
Right.
And his 3 older brothers.
4, right? 4 older brothers?
When Dominic was quite a bit older. He was actually born in Italy.
That's right.
But when the Second World War began, I think he was probably married and with kids and didn't go to the service, was not draftable, I guess. But the 3 younger brothers were all in the army at the same time. In the Second World War.
Sure.
In Africa.
Right.
They were not
with Patton.
The children of Italian immigrants to fight Mussolini because they would disappear and never come back.
Right.
So they were all in it. They were all there. And I'm sure that's how they survived. The family survived because the boys were in the service. The girls quit school and got menial jobs like waitressing and stuff like that.
Right.
And so fortunately, they all survived. The brothers.
Right.
And came home and probably through the GI Bill got houses, mortgages, stuff like that, and started families.
And pulled the whole family up as a result.
Pulled the whole family up, yes.
And your father, being the youngest, was too young to serve in the Second World War.
Much to his dismay, he was left behind.
I'm sure. I'm sure he wanted to go where the big brothers went.
They lived in Glassport, and he worked in the glass house, which literally made glass. And during high school, he worked the night shift. 11 at night to 7 in the morning, and then would basically go to school and sleep.
Right.
So I'm sure he got sympathy diploma.
Right.
And it ended up to be the only of the brothers who had a white collar job.
Right.
All
The only one to graduate high
only
school, the only one that,
graduate high
right,
school.
he sold insurance, the only one to have a white collar job.
Right.
Yeah.
All the other brothers worked in the mill their whole lives. And the husbands of the sisters also worked in the mill.
Hmm.
And that's why they're union people. This is how they survived.
Right.
Union jobs with benefits. And
right. There's a sense of community not only in the neighborhood, but in the workplace. I mean, it was a small Italian communities formed at home, at the mill, etc., to help everybody survive.
It was a completely blue collar existence. Completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So going back to citizenship for a moment,
yes.
When you realized this was available to us and that, yes, we had my grandfather's father who never became a U.S. citizen, or grandfather's mother, we didn't use that path, we didn't need to, but neither of them ever became U.S. citizens. No. Were you thinking at the time, I've always wanted to be an Italian citizen? Or what did you think when you realized this is available?
Well, as I said, I had no idea. I had never heard of this. Mm-hmm. And so when I found out about it and found out I could reclaim Italian citizenship, I just was like full steam ahead. I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have a plan for why. I just knew I wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. And my mother was like, "What? Are you crazy? Why would you want to do that?"
Right.
But I said, "No, I'm doing it." And as you know, I started trying to do it on my own and sort of got stumbling about it. You were a lawyer and you had offered.
Well, but let's stop for a second. Not without a major achievement, which is you wrote to Castro Pignano for the birth records of your grandparents. And they sent them to you in a tiny little yellow envelope.
They certainly did.
I didn't help you with that.
No, I wrote that in Italian to them and I got it. Yep.
Isn't that unbelievable?
It's amazing. I didn't send any money.
Right.
I just wrote them.
Oh, how times have changed in the world of Italian citizenship.
I want the birth certificate, and I knew their names, and I said, if there is a charge, tell me. I got the birth certificate.
Right. And then we kind of ran into, or you felt like, okay, now I'm not sure where to go. I don't know I'm not sure I'm comfortable translating all these records. And what do we get as, proving that someone was never a U.S. citizen, et cetera.
I had to prove.
So that's kind of when I came into the picture to help out. I remember my excitement was the idea of looking forward to the idea of, wow, where might this citizenship lead in life? What opportunity, what doors might it open?
Exactly.
But I imagine for you, it was sort of a looking back through doors you had already come through as well.
More so than looking forward.
Right.
Yes.
Sure. If for no other reason than just our ages at the time and where we were in life.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just sort of a validating and honoring the history.
Yeah.
And that was the hook I used to get you in, because you had always talked about, after having studied in France for a while, this dream of living for a time in Europe. And I remember saying to you, if I get this, you can get this.
Right. Yes. And that's very true of a lot of the people that I talk to. The people my age and younger, many times, not all times, but didn't necessarily know an ancestor that had come from Italy. That all the ancestors they ever had met were all born in the U.S., didn't speak Italian.
Right.
Many times because that was discouraged by the Italy-born ancestors.
Totally discouraged.
Right. But their parents will say to me, well, I knew this person. I was little, but I knew them. Mm-hmm. And so it is absolutely both things. It is a tie to who has come before and an opportunity moving forward. It's kind of, a full circle,
Yes.
I think is the best way to think of it, as it's kind of closing that circle that somebody started 120 years, a march someone started 120 years ago, and marching it back there.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And yeah. And so, yes, our process, I mean, this, as you know, from having to listen to me, if for no other reason, over the last 15 years, this process has changed dramatically.
Yes.
In terms of how many people are interested, how many people know about this. Looking back on it, I think our process was relatively simple.
Remember the day we went to the embassy?
To the consulate in Miami, yes.
Yeah, it was so simple.
Yes. Not without some very classic Italian citizenship pitfalls. If you recall, I was told by someone at the embassy in Washington, where I was in Washington, you were in Florida, and I went in there and they told me, oh, you can't do this unless your mother does it.
Oh,
which was
yes,
false.
I do remember you being told that.
False, that didn't have to happen, yeah. But I was told that to just be one less thing on their plate that day. And so we said, okay, well, we'll get you through the process, and then I will get through the process. And lo and behold, we get to Miami, and they said, well, you can just both do this right here. I don't know why. Yeah, we didn't have, that was never true, that you had to do it first for me to proceed.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, this thing has grown so exponentially since that time.
Right. For a whole host of reasons, people learning about it, the growth of social media. It has to be said, political things have absolutely driven the interest in dual citizenship everywhere. And Italy is one of, with as many Italian Americans as there are in this country, let alone throughout the world, Italy's one of the biggest recipients of citizenship requests.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so, do you recall getting your passport?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, do tell.
Well,
it was different than our citizenship day. No. Our passports were a different day than when we took our citizenship paperwork in.
Okay.
Passports came on a different day.
Okay. No, but then I don't exactly remember how I got that. It wasn't there. Would I have to go back to the consulate to get it?
I don't know that I recall your passport experience, but I guess the question I'm asking is, when you finally got your hands on it, what was more important? Being told congratulations, you are a citizen, holding the passport, or both?
The more meaningful part to me was getting the letter that said my birth had been registered in Castropiano.
Right. That marks the end of the citizenship process and really closes the circle.
That was the most important thing. I mean, the most meaningful thing.
Yeah, the passport is a privilege one can have as a...
I don't really even recall. I think it might have come in the mail.
Yes, probably did.
But getting that letter from the comune that said, your birth has been registered here. That was...
Right, pretty special.
Yes.
Yeah, to think like, wow, all those years later.
Exactly. And now you're registered there.
Yes.
Carmen's registered there.
Carmen, my daughter, is registered there as well. Yeah. It's a pretty special thing.
That's not
right.
Right.
It is. I mean, it's kind of, I say this to people most often in the context of letting them know that an ancestor is not a source of citizenship because of a naturalization, but it's true for all of our ancestors that they never would have dreamed, having put all of that effort to leave Italy 100+ years ago, they were never thinking, well, they'll want to go back.
My grandson,
they'll want citizenship.
Right. Yeah, no, that would have never entered his mind.
Right.
So
you have told me many times that grandma, your mother, I don't call her Nona. Probably viewers are thinking, she doesn't call her Nona? How weird. But no, we didn't do that in our family. had said to you not only why are you pursuing this citizenship, but had no interest in going to Italy. Which is also very common, but true, correct?
Well, let me tell you this: of 3 girls in my mother's family and 9 siblings in my father's family, no one of that generation, with the exception of my Aunt Lucy, has ever gone back to Italy. I find that astounding.
Yeah, it's pretty common that the first generation born in the US was given an image of Italy that the parents had escaped from, some of which didn't take to the US in return, but most often stayed. That was not necessarily flattering, and so their perception of what Italy had to offer was negative.
It's
not a positive image of it, and so yeah.
But even of my generation, the cousins, which there were many, I have gone many times, and my cousin Al, who was on my father's side, has gone many times. None of the other cousins has ever gone.
It's shocking.
It is shocking.
Even my own cousins in our small family, my generation haven't gone.
No.
I mean, this is just like mind blowing.
It is. It's just, I'm like, are you just devoid of curiosity? What is wrong with you people?
Right. But I think you and I were joking the other day that might not be so much about Italy. That might be more of like a provincial Pittsburgh thing.
It could be.
Sorry, Pittsburgh.
They think you need a passport to go to Philadelphia.
Ohio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, that's a big adventure for them. Okay, so I would say this. I have this question for you. With all of this this research that you did and the process that we went through to become citizens, and knowing what you know through me and about how this process has changed, but also how this emotionally affected you, what would you tell someone who is considering doing this and is at the starting line today? Is it worthwhile? What do they need to know if they're going to start this journey?
I would say without reservation, do it. Start now and do it.
Yeah.
It will only be a positive journey. A
bumpy road.
Pardon? It could be
maybe a bumpy road.
And it's getting bumpier.
Yes.
And I
would
say before the road is blocked,
right,
do it.
Right. We don't know we really don't know what the future will hold. It has certainly, the last year or so, has certainly been an adventure in the Italian citizenship world.
Yes.
I guess I kind of liken it to, what would your grandfather have said if he could have told somebody in Città Sant'Angelo who was considering coming to the US, I think he would have said, it's a bumpy road, but do it.
But do it. Yes.
Yeah. It's an adventure.
And going back to our earlier in our conversation about what motivated me to do it was more just claiming my roots. That's how it started. And that's why I did. But now I am so grateful to have this escape route.
Sure.
I mean,
I hear that almost every single person that I talk to says, am I allowed to say this? Am I allowed to say that I want to have this as just in case?
Right. But years ago, when I started doing this, it never occurred to me that I would.
No, furthest thing from our minds. And it honestly, it wasn't something that people talked, when I started this as a business, it wasn't something that people talked about 10 plus years ago.
To tell you the truth, I recall now that once I got the letter saying my birth had been registered, I really didn't even care about getting the passport.
And that's very common of your generation.
I had an American passport.
Right.
I didn't need a passport. I just wanted to find my roots.
Right. And you did that.
Pardon?
And you did
I
that.
did that. And that's why I said the meaningful thing to me was when I got the piece of paper that said your birth is registered Astropinion.
Yeah.
The passport I didn't particularly care about, and that's why
Right.
I don't even know how I got it.
Right. And that's okay. And that's way more common than you might realize.
I
Is that
think for my generation, that's not that unusual.
yeah, right. I would say most people in your generation, well, some consider retirement options and
Yes,
want to, are considering maybe a move in their retirement, but for most people, it's really about closing that circle
absolutely.
and saying, these people didn't leave and just disappear.
No,
From, this was their ancestral home for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Just because you left didn't mean you were gone, wiped off the map.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that resonates with people. I think I hear it all the time, and I think it is as much a motivator for people to embark on the dual citizenship process as is the fact that the passport might open doors for them professionally, personally, whatever it is that they might also be exploring. At least in the world of Italian citizenship, it is certainly about restoring that connection to Italy and those that came from there.
Absolutely was for me.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything you thought like, well, why haven't we talked about this?
And nothing odd that
I think we've kind of covered our experience, and part of why I wanted you to be this guest and to have this conversation was to sort of share with people that they're not alone. That if they're feeling like, okay, is it it's something that tugs at my heart to make me do this? That's what a lot of people are feeling.
That is the main motivator.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Because growing up in my young childhood, in the atmosphere that I did, I was very aware of being Italian. That wasn't something that was other people, old people. That was
right.
I was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had the salami sandwich every day at school, as I always joke about.
Yes.
That.
Yes.
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 And all of that. Oh.
And I think for me, it has been so wonderful to go through this process with you because I didn't experience that.
Not.
I mean, as people are, hearing in this conversation that we're having, I didn't call my grandmother Nonna.
I didn't call my grandmother Nonna.
What did you call
Grandma and Grandpa?
Oh, well, no wonder Grandma had me call her Grandma.
Yeah,
That's what she knew.
Nonna. No.
Yeah, sometimes I think that the cliche Italian story gets told maybe too many times, and sometimes it's just nice to hear that, there's shared experience even when it's not just like the movie.
It's not just like the movie, but it was real nonetheless. I mean, I remember many Christmas Eves. Christmas Eve was always in the house I lived in, my grandfather's house. It was always the 7 fishes. My whole maternal side of the family would come. The kids all hated the dinner. The adults couldn't wait for it to be over so they could play pinochle at the dining room table. And eat.
And all the kids wanted to eat were pizzelles.
Drink the wine that my grandfather had made in the basement.
Right.
And we would be picking out on pizzelles in the living room and falling asleep on the floor. And then the next day you go to Grandma's house and she makes the homemade ravioli and the sauce and all. Yeah, I mean, that was my life.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it makes me envious. I think, oh gosh, that would have been really fun.
Christmas Eves are fond memories. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, because they're all playing cards and drinking too much wine, and it was great.
And the kids are free to do whatever kids are going to do when nobody's watching.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is the best part of all. Well, Mom,
Yes,
thank you so much for
this
doing this.
this was
I
fun.
can't think of somebody better to have on as my very first guest.
Well, I'm
You
glad
are
you
the
did.
origin of all of this, and without you, none of this would have happened.
No, I remember. I remember
Yeah.
going out for dinner with you after my consulate meeting
Mm-hmm.
and saying to you, I think a lot of people would want to do this.
Right.
And
Like how many, Mom? How many do you think?
but I mean, really, that
Yes, no, that's been true. I mean, yes, as you know, anybody that I've ever worked with knows the story as the story goes. That you know, this company, Your Italian Passport, was born by getting our Italian passports and
exactly.
realizing this doesn't have to be so complicated.
No,
We
and
didn't have to fall into as many holes as we fell into. If
no,
somebody would just tell us where are the holes, let me help you get over those.
exactly.
So yes, so I guess my point is, thank you, Mom,
Thank you.
not only for making me an Italian citizen, but you know, being the source of what has turned into my professional work,
Exactly.
my
I'm very
professional
proud.
life.
I'm proud of that and proud of you.
Thanks, Mama.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you again, and I will see you soon.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Love you. Ciao, ciao.
Love you too.
Big thanks to my mom. That couldn't have gone better. I recommend anybody starting a podcast, bring your mom on as the very first guest. It goes so much more smoothly and takes the nerves away. Thank you for tuning in. If this has inspired any of you to want to pursue your own Italian citizenship, we are here to help. Check us out at youritalianpassport.com and stay tuned to Your Italian Podcast. The next episode, we get past citizenship when we start exploring life as an Italian in Italy. What does that look like? It's one thing to become a citizen and another thing to start living there. Talk about schools for your kids, the healthcare system, how to buy a house, all of those things. Stay tuned to the next episode. I look forward to seeing you there.